Let's go. Yo, I'm like an addict, do I gotta have it. I ain't even playing, got a really bad habit. If it moves, gotta grab it, fuse like a magnet. Lose, won't have it till I'm doomed in a casket. I ain't playing, got a weird mind. If you work 8 hours, I'ma work 9. If the shoot tastes sour, you should taste mine. I'ma stay in power for a long time. Get up, nah, I ain't a quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer. Rising the song to the highest bidder. Got juice, got gas, I'ma move fast. New shoes, new tracks, like who's that? I'm new, come back, better than last. Yeah, it's a new me, never gonna look back. I'm never gonna look back. Cause damn, I was built to last. You move slow and I move fast, and that's facts. Only I can make a change. Slowly take a step today. I will never be the same. Cause that's what it takes. Pieces is a form of art. I'm never gonna look back. Cause damn, I was built to last. You move slow and I move fast, and that's facts. Only I can make a change. Slowly take a step today. I will never be the same. Cause that's what it takes. Ice in my veins, I've been driving this train. Years in this lane, there's no stopping this flame. Cause I came to the game and I changed it to play how I like, rearranged it to my own domain. Yeah, I got what it takes, made lots of mistakes. Taking shots, skipping breaks, feeling lost, feeling great. Popping off, singing straight, never stopped, never changed. All the squad here to play, and I've got something to say, yeah. I work hard each and every day. I get lost in the words I say. I don't push pause, no, I push play. I won't stop till I make a change. I withdraw on the things I make. I turn flaws into flawless traits. I build tall, never capped in space.
Hello everyone! Welcome to CreativePro and our live stream. We are here for you. I love seeing everybody in the chat. This is so great. We have some fellow Nebraskans in the audience again. That is always fun. So this is wonderful. I love having everyone here to join us. And hey, what are we gonna talk about today? I'm gonna be sharing some great layers panel tips for you. First though, I want to take a minute since this is CreativePro and I don't know that everyone knows all of the amazing resources that CreativePro has for people. So I just wanted to show everybody real quick. If we pop over to here, CreativePro is the how to design resource for design professionals. It has all kinds of incredible information. So basically, whenever I don't know how to do something, I search it up on Google, as the kids say, and I inevitably end up on CreativePro's website. And once you sign up as a member, you get full access to all the Creative Pro magazine archives and downloadable goodies. There's tutorials. There's all these amazing resources that I just want to point out because I don't know that everyone is taking advantage of them. There's font packs and templates and answers to anything you want to know about not just Photoshop, but also InDesign, Illustrator, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So just wanted to put that out there for everybody. Okay, so what are we going to be talking about today? We are going to be talking about the hidden gems in Photoshop's Layers panel. And I saw in the chat some people had some things they were sharing about some of their little tricks and things they know about the Layers panel that helps make their lives easier. So I'm happy to hear that. And as we go, I would be really curious to know which of these you already know and use on the regular, and which of these are about to blow your mind and change the way you work. We're going to be talking about everything from simple things like, just filtering layers or easy ways to hide and unhide different layers for different things, but also some really hidden things that I just don't think people even know are there, as well as some you might have heard people talk about, things like blend if, and some advanced blending options in the Layers panel. So it's very exciting. Let's pop over to the chat real quick. I see there's a lot of comments going on in here. Adrian, it's so good to have you with us. Adrian says Creative Pro has been a go-to resource for years and highly recommend. Ooh, the Design and Accessibility Summit. Yes, Adrian. Oh, aren't you the best promoter? For those of you who don't know what that is, the Design and Accessibility Summit is happening just next month. And one of the things that we have the power to do as designers is, of course, shape the experience for people who are interacting with our designs. And often our designs, of course, take the form of documents. And not everyone's able to access them the same way. So anybody who might have vision issues, or maybe they've got some mobility issues and they're not able to navigate documents the same way as someone else, we want to make all of those things accessible. And there is a whole field within the design world focused on accessibility and making these things, these documents, web pages, videos, all of that stuff accessible to everyone. And we have a whole 4-day conference about it coming up. And actually, because you mentioned it, I do have this little thing for you. So Adrian, I don't know if you've got your pass for the next one, but you can save $100 with the code livestream. So that worked out nicely. Thank you for making that easy for me. Brad, our marketing guy, is going to be really thrilled with all of that and how that played out. What else? Hello, Stephanie from Phoenix. Oh, Betty. Betty says, I wish more of these things would be available for Photoshop on iPad. Yeah, it's just a whole different ballgame on iPad, isn't it? Teresa, good morning to you. Hello to Patricia in Brazil. Welcome. That's really exciting. We've got people here from Idaho, Illinois, Rhode Island, Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. I love that. That's wonderful. Victoria has a special place in my heart. So this is really exciting. Well, all right, you guys, let's jump in. We'll come back here in the chat and check in a little bit, but let's pop over to Photoshop. And today I'm going to be bouncing between Photoshop proper and Photoshop beta, because there's just something cool I want to show you that has nothing to do really with the layers panel, but the example that I'm going to show you with the layers panel can be enhanced with a cool feature in Photoshop Beta. So anyway, let's talk about first things first. So how great is this this little scene I made? Coffee, chocolate, and Photoshop. I've got 2 out of the 3 here this morning, so I'm feeling pretty good. This is just a funny little poster thing that I made a long time ago. But here's what I want to draw your attention to in the layers panel. You can see that I've got like a lot of layers here. So the way I made this was I cut out all these different shapes and made like paper overlays, and then I doodled on some of them, and it's, you know, it's a Mod Podge of things. But the point is, when we look at our layers panel, it is really hard to tell what layer is what, because you will notice I did not label my layers perfectly. Who does all the time, right? Some of you maybe. I do when I'm giving my file to someone else. I prepare it nicely for them, but in my own just like messy creative process, I don't always get them named. And even if they were named, sometimes we just want to see at a glance how what's on each of the thumbnails. Now, Stephen had a great tip. So some of you may know this, that if you go to the layers panel menu, so right up here, and you come down to panel options, there is this option here to increase the thumbnail size, right? So by default, it's set on this middle option here. And you can, yes, absolutely. You can come down here and make it 1 notch bigger. And if I do that, I do get bigger thumbnails, but I still cannot see what is on the thumbnails. It just kind of made them bigger, and now I have to scroll more in my layers panel. So I'm going to go back to my panel options. I'm going to go back to the default middle setting here. And here's my number 1 first trick for you all. Stephen, I think you're going to like this. Instead of adjusting the thumbnail size, what we want to do is adjust what's in the thumbnail. So in other words, the default says to show the entire document in each thumbnail. So even if the little doodad that's on a layer is like this big, we are seeing the entire document in that thumbnail, when what most of the time I think what we actually want is to just see the layer bounds, like what is actually on that layer. So check this out. When we do that and I click OK, look at my layers panel now. Now I can see, oh, this layer is my little coffee cup layer, and these are my cutout layers, etc. So that is my number 1 trick. I would be curious how many of you knew that. And Stephen, I want to know if that makes it even better for you, because you can combine the 2 of them, right? Like you can have Photoshop display huge giant thumbnails, and those thumbnails can be sort of just shrink wrapped to whatever's actually on them instead of viewing the whole document. So I love that option. I don't know when I found it or read about it or someone else showed me. I have no idea, but I just don't work now without it. It's amazing. So number 1, I hope you like that one. Let's pop over to another graphic that I'm doing here. This is something I've been working on for Adobe Max, and I am loving it. It is a mess right now in my layers panel. You can see, you know, like anything, right? Especially when I'm building these kinds of collage things, there's a lot of trial and error. And so there's a lot of things that get put in here that I may not keep. Some of them are, the visibility's off right now. That's okay. We'll get to that in a minute. But what I wanted to show you is sometimes when you're working in your image, you just want to like see only one layer, right? So maybe, for example, I've got this pear here that we can easily see now that our thumbnails are shrink wrapped to the contents of the layer. And that's great, but like if I want to just solo this pear layer, I don't want to like have to scroll through here and manually hide any of the visible layers just so I can see my solo layer that I want to see. So here's a little trick for you. If you Alt or Option click on the layer you want to isolate, so we call it soloing, or I call it soloing. I don't know where that comes from, but we're giving it a solo. We're only looking at that layer. If you Alt or Option click on the visibility icon for that layer, Photoshop hides all the other layers, and then you can work on it and do whatever it is that you need to do. But here is the really cool part, because now I'm like, okay, let's say I did my little edit and I'm like, well, now I just want my document back how it was. And obviously, I've got a lot of layers here and I don't remember which were on and which were off. And this is now going to take me a long time just to get my document back to the state it was in. Except that if I now Alt or Option click again on that layer, Photoshop doesn't just turn on all the other layers, it brings just back the layers that were on before we soloed the one layer. Are you kidding me? How many of you knew that? And if you did know it, do you use it often? I feel like I use it all the time. It does get messed up if you like solo a layer and then you start toggling the visibility of other layers on and off. It kind of, then Photoshop like forgets where things were. But if you just solo the layer, do your stuff, and then unsolo it, then it does just come right back to the way you had it. And so whatever was visible is visible and all this other stuff in here is not still. So for me, that is a big, huge one. And also sometimes if you want to go through here and let's say you have like a whole string of layers you want to turn on or off, you don't have to click them all individually. You can just hold down your mouse and just kind of, I call it like a drive by. You just drive by and make them all visible. So I can just hold down my mouse and go brrr, and now they're all visible, and I could go brrr, and now they're all not visible again. So I think those are huge. Okay, we also have these are kind of like housekeeping features about the layers panel. But sometimes you might want to filter your layers. So maybe you have stuff going on where you're like, I just need to find my type layers. Like, I just want to look at my type layers for a minute. Well, you may not have realized that up here at the top of the layers panel, usually this right here, it usually says kind. Let me get back to normal. So up here at the top of the layers panel, it says, by default, if you never touched it, it says kind, which I just kind of chuckle because every time I look at it, I'm like, yes, you're pretty kind, Photoshop. But it doesn't mean kind. It kind of means more like type of layer, like the kind of layer that it is. I just think it's funny. It's like reminding you to be kind. But anyway, it doesn't do anything at first. You have to enable it. And so this little switch here will enable your filter on or off. So by default, it says kind and nothing is going to happen. But these little buttons right here allow you to filter by these different kinds of layers. I'm sure everyone else got the actual meaning of kind without thinking kindness, but that's where my brain went. So I'm going to take that as a positive. But kinds of layers. So here we have pixel layers. So maybe you have a mix of like pixel layers and vector layers. You can just filter for pixel layers by clicking on that. And now the layers panel is only showing me pixel layers. So we can toggle that on and off. We could look for just adjustment layers or just text layers. These ones are vector layers. So if you're just like, where's my vector stuff? And these ones I think are smart objects, right? No, what is this? It is smart objects. I don't have smart objects in here. Well, this must have been a rough draft. What's going on with that? Shame on me. Okay, so then once you have it filtered, like let's say for text or whatever, there we go. If you want to then cancel it, you got to click that little switch right there, and that cancels the filter and shows you everything. So, if you're just like retouching a portrait or adjusting hue saturation or, mildly working on an image, you may not need that. But as you can imagine, the more layers you have and the different types of layers you have, that can be really helpful. Oh, I love this. Steven says, I've wondered what that did. So that's great. I'm so happy to have shown that to you. It's very handy in some cases. Okay, here's some more kind of housekeeping stuff. How many times have you been looking in your layers panel and you're like, oh my God, why are like all of my folders open? I can't look at all of that. I need to tidy up my layers panel. There is an option for that. You can come up to the layers panel menu, and there is an option to collapse all groups. Check it out. So we'll click on that, and now, whoa, suddenly my layers panel almost fits on my screen. Look at that. Now it's all neat and tidy. Now here's the kicker, and I only just like really realized this last year. I think it was Chris Converse who helped me figure this out. Because I was like, how come you can collapse all of your folders, but you can't expand all of your folders? Because weirdly, there is no menu item to expand all of your folders. And then Chris in his infinite wisdom said, well, did you try like alt clicking or command clicking or whatever clicking? And I was like, let's see. So if I want to expand all of these, I can just, and now I forget, I think it's command. Yeah. If you command or control on a PC, command or control click on the little twirl down caret for a folder, it will open all your folders. So then let's see, if I command click, will it collapse them all too? It does. So forget it. You don't even need the little menu for that. Just command or control click on the little folder twirl down, and it'll just pop open or pop shut. And I love that. That I find very helpful. Okay, another thing that is wildly useful to me, again, really depends on the kind of work you do, but I like to create a lot of weird abstract collage pieces like this. And what that generally means is that I have so many blank, like invisible layers in my layers panel, because they're things that I've dragged in and tried and experimented with, but then I've changed my mind about them for whatever reason. So I end up usually downloading a ton of stock images and just testing different things. And then I kind of keep them around because maybe they work. And I'm like, well, maybe I'll come back to this, whatever. The point is, I have a lot of not visible layers that I would like to get rid of. Like you could see here, there's so many, but I don't necessarily want to click through and like manually do that. So if I come up to the panel menu, there is an option to just delete hidden layers. Just boom. So I'm going to click on it, and wow. Now my layers panel is so much more streamlined. That's amazing. So that's another huge one that I find really helpful. Another thing, you guys know, obviously, probably, that you can merge layers, right? Like you can merge layers down. You can merge multiple layers into one, but sometimes for whatever reason, I just need to take everything in my document, and basically I want to merge it without actually merging all my layers. I just want to like merge it into its own layer. Um, and now I can't think of a good example of why, but I was doing this just the other day. Oh, I know, because partially with Photoshop's new Harmonize feature, which we'll talk about in a minute, I just found myself needing to do that. And so one thing that you can do is if you click to create a new blank layer and then you press all the modifier keys. So that's Shift, Command or Control, Alt or Option, and then you press E for everything. It will give you a merged copy of your whole document. Like whatever is visible at that moment, it will just put here. And then, you know, you can run a filter on it or do whatever you need to do for that whole shebang. And it's just kind of helpful. So I always like that trick. And I don't know if that's in here. We can do merge down, merge visible. I don't know that there's a command for that somewhere. Does anybody know? Maybe up here? I'm just looking. I see your Barbara. I'll repeat that in a minute. I think that might be a keyboard only kind of thing. Yeah, because you can merge layers, Command or Control E. You can merge visible layers, Command or Control Shift E. But the only way to just like copy everything into a merged new layer without like copying as merged and then pasting as merged is just this keyboard shortcut. So you want to first make a new blank layer and then you press Command or Control, Alt or Option, and then Shift. So it's like all the common modifier keys. And then you press E for everything. I always think of the E key when I'm talking about merging, and I think the keyboard shortcut for merging is Command or Control E to merge down. And I like to think of that as like eating for some reason. Like when you're merging two layers together, I always think of like the top layers kind of gobbling up the lower one and they become one. So E, Command E or Control E. So when you're doing this keyboard shortcut, it's all the modifier keys and also that E again, because you're kind of eating it all up into one new layer. It's also the last letter in the word merge, which is probably more what the programmers were thinking, but I was thinking about eating. I don't know. That's on me. Okay, you guys. Let's see. What else are these? You guys, I have a really long list. So I'm just trying to look through and see what is like the most pressing. I guess here's another thing. So you may already know this because it's maybe not as unknown, but when you have a layer style applied to a layer and you want to copy it, yes, you know, you can right click and you can choose copy layer style and you can select multiple layers at a time and then you right click and you can paste it. But you can also just hold down the Alt or Option key and just drag. So if I want to drag the style to here, I can just do it. By holding Alt or Option, you can drag that layer style onto whatever layer you want. So I end up using that quite a bit because it's just easier than, I don't know, right clicking on everything. It kind of just depends. If I'm trying to copy a layer style and apply it to like 20 layers, I'll probably just select them, right click and paste it. But it is there. Okay. Now let's bolt. We'll come back to this. Let's bolt over to Photoshop Beta for a minute. And I want to show you, well, I'll show you the Harmonize filter, not filter, command, whatever it's called, feature. I'll show you that because it's really cool. But before we do that, I want to actually show you something about the layers panel because I find this incredibly helpful. So, oops, I've been on a spree lately where I've been creating these sort of like doomsday portraits. I don't know. I think they're kind of funny, but they're also kind of like Vanity Fair, but like a little dark. And so here we have this beautiful portrait subject, and then this giant like kraken tentacle that is sort of sneaking up on her, I guess. And so obviously that is what I've added in here. So I've masked it in place. But now when I'm looking at this, I'm like, there should be a little bit of a shadow, like, where the kraken is like overlaying on her dress or like her shoulder or whatever. And obviously we can paint that in manually. We could do that. Maybe that's one way to go. I don't know that one way is better than another, but that's one option. But another thing that we can do is to just add a drop shadow to this. So I'm going to go ahead and select drop shadow, and we can tweak this however we, see fit. Now there's some problems with this drop shadow, obviously. So we can debate whether it's too dark or whatever, but there's a number of problems. One, the drop shadow is showing up on her hands, so we'll have to fix that. But also the drop shadow is showing up here on the background, and that's not right. The drop shadow should not be floating in space here on these bushes. So we have a couple of options. One is that you can actually take this drop shadow or whatever effect you've got going on, and we can actually turn that drop shadow into a layer of its own. So to do that, I'm going to right click on the drop shadow in the layers panel, and I'm going to choose create layer. And it's going to warn me about stuff, and I'm going to click OK. And what it has done now is basically siphoned the layer style away from that layer and just made it into its own layer. So if I grab this and just move it around, you can see that the shadow is now just its own layer, and you can do whatever you need to do with it. So sometimes I use this technique if I'm trying to create a cast shadow from something. I'll just add a drop shadow and then detach the drop shadow into a layer of its own. And then I can, transform it and skew it and make it more like a cast shadow if I want to. So that's one option. Again, that was right clicking on the words drop shadow and choosing create layer. But another option is to just make sure that the mask here actually masks the effects as well as the layer. So that's what's happening down here on her hands. So her hands are part of this mask. So if we shift click, no, option or alt click, we can see the areas of the image where this giant kraken tentacle has been masked. So that's what makes it look like it's going behind her hands. But now that I've applied a drop shadow to it, the drop shadow is ignoring the mask, which is why the shadow's now showing up on her hands, which is just not what we want. And you'll notice if I grab a paintbrush tool and I come in here and try and paint the mask like off the background, it's going to just keep moving the shadow with the mask. So it's not going to allow me to hide. Oops. to hide the effect the way that I want to. So you can see here we've got that shadow, and when I'm clicking on it, I'm erasing the tentacle and the shadow's just moving with it. So what we need to do is we need to tell Photoshop that the mask should not only just mask the contents of the layer, but it should also mask the effects, or in this case, the drop shadow. And we do that by double clicking on our layer here to pull up our blending options. And there is a little button down here that says Layer Mask Hides Effects. And by default, it's off. But if we look at this area on her hands, watch what happens when I just turn that on. Bloop. Now the layer style doesn't show up on her hands because it's respecting the mask. So we can then click OK. And then I could also come over here. And now, oops, got to be on the mask. But now I could come and erase the shadow using that same technique. We do want it on her dress though. But like, it shouldn't have a drop shadow coming here on the background. Okay. So I just think that's super, super handy. And I'm curious, the dreaded stuff warning. I'm curious how many of you guys have used that, because I use it all the time. And then I wanted to show you this in Photoshop Beta because this is the cool new Harmonize feature that is coming to Photoshop. It's in the free public beta now if you want to check that out. But here's how it works. So this tentacle doesn't really belong in this photo. I've not done any color grading to it to make it look like it belongs, but Photoshop has a way to do that for me now. And if I just select this in my contextual taskbar, there's a new little option called Harmonize. And when I click on it, it will hopefully do a good job. It's a gen fill type of thing. So that's what it's doing, is it's generating an overlay for how this could look better in the image, like more like it belongs. So I'm just letting that run. Dun, 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 dun. There we go. And now, like with Gen Fill, it created several variations that I can choose to see which one I like best. I kind of like this one. And so that's it. And you can see then in the layers panel, it generated this new layer. So it made an entire new layer filled with the image. But then it also added a mask so that it's only showing the parts of that layer that are relevant to what we used to generate it. So it's a little tricky because it, like now if I move it around, like I'm getting this, and you can see it like added some funky stuff to it. So it's one of those things you kind of save for last at the end of your piece, because once you do it, if you try to make changes, you're going to have to redo it anyway. So that's a lot of stuff. Let me see how you guys are doing over here in the chat with all of this stuff. Oh, I'm glad you liked my promo plugs. Oh, this is a good one. Sean, I loved Creative Pro Week this year. So good. It is so good. And we're going to be in Nashville this coming summer. So we would love anyone to join us. Let's see. Adrian says, OMG, I can't believe I've never noticed that option. I'm already having a head slap moment. That's funny, Adrian. Were you talking about the filter? The filtering in layers? I didn't get it either. It is kind of surprising. Blue Worker Bunny says, that makes life so much easier. I'm so happy to hear that. I'm curious which tip you were talking about. Let's see. Steven says, I'm going to use that one all the time. I'm so glad, Steven. I don't know which one you're talking about, but that's great. Oh, Cindy says, does it work the opposite way? Can you click on the canvas on the part you want and it will show you which layer it is on? Yes, there's a way to do that. There's a way to do that, Cindy. Let me show you that. While I'm thinking of it, let's go back and I'm going to show you that. Let's go back to my other Photoshop sample. It's really, I don't know how other people manage having both Photoshops at once. It makes me a little bonkers. But okay, so here, I think this is what you were asking about. Is there a way to click in the image and find the thing in the layers panel? And yes, so here's the way that I do it. When I have my move tool, you do have this option up here for auto select with the move tool. I have that off because I find that I accidentally select the wrong thing too often. So what I have found to be a really great happy medium is that I turn that off, but then check this out. If I, which one is it now? There we go. Oh, and I want to say layer. So if I have auto select layer off, but I hover over anything on my canvas, now it's not. Oh, this is on top. Okay. Let me turn off some of these. This is where it gets tricky. And there's a workaround for this too. Let me show you the clean way first, and then you'll understand. All right, so move tool, auto select layer off. I've got it set to select layers, not groups. And then if I hover over a part of my canvas and I hold down Command or Control, Photoshop's showing me, you can see my guides there popping on, and it's showing me that if I click right here, I will be selecting this part of my image. So what's happening is even though I turned auto select layer off, when I press and hold Command or Control, you can see that I'm toggling it back on. So that's what's happening there. And then if I click, you'll notice it jumped to that layer in the layers panel. So if I want to select my pear, I can Command click or Control click on that with the move tool. Or if I want this little circle down here, I can Command or Control click on that and it will select it in the layers panel. The other alternative is if you right click, like you saw that I had a little trouble a minute ago because I was command clicking and I wasn't getting the bird here. That's because on top of the bird in this portion of the image, I had this texture layer. And so I was selecting the texture layer. That's why you see this huge guideline over here because the texture is so big and it's covering the bird. So in those situations, another thing you could do with the move tool is if you just right click on that area, it shows you a list of all the layers that are underneath where you clicked. So I could right click and then I can be like, oh, I want to select the bird or birds, I guess, folder, or I do want this texture layer or whatever. So if you're ever having trouble selecting things automatically, that's how I like to operate. So Command or Control will toggle the auto select layer function on or off, and you can click. But if you have a layer like a giant texture layer covering everything, then it's going to be a little harder. So in that case, you might want to right click and then you can choose. And it'll even show you, like, here we see the birds is a folder because inside you can see even it's indented here, layer 28 is going to actually be the bird. So I hope that answers your question. That is really helpful, I think, in a lot of cases. Okay. What else did you guys? Gary's pointing out that yes, there is an option for merge visible in the layers panel, but I believe that it just merges them. It doesn't merge them into a new layer. So that is the difference there. It just takes visible layers and merges them together. And if that's what you want, it's awesome. Chuck says Option, Command, Alt, whatever, all of that stuff, Shift E makes a stamp layer of visible layers. Yes. Steve is happy to be here and not getting covered in mud at Burning Man. Well, I'm happy you're here too, Steve. That's funny. Release the Kraken. Yes. Okay. Yeah, it's funny. So, hey, Teresa. Teresa says she always has the auto select layers on, right? Like everyone likes to work differently, and it can definitely be helpful. I think it just depends how you're working, and yeah, so many different options. Okay, let's jump back in here because I've got some other stuff that will possibly blow your mind. Okay, but we need to get back to this version of Photoshop. Yeah. I don't know how people manage both. It makes me bonkers to have beta and the, regular release of Photoshop, but sometimes it's helpful. I don't know. Okay, so here's one I bet very few people are familiar with. I'm just going to show it to you. So here we have an image. There's nothing in it, no layers, nothing yet. It's just a photo. If we go to the layers panel menu and we choose mask all objects, we just click on that. Photoshop is going to use its little smart powers to figure out the different objects in the scene, mask each of them separately, and create little folders for them. So you can see here that this seems to have selected the surfboard or paddleboard or whatever that thing is. This has selected the sky. And this has selected the foreground water here. So how is this useful? Well, now any adjustments that we make with these different things selected will automatically be applied to those areas only. So if I want to adjust the sky, let's say, I'm going to select this layer here, and all I'm going to do is come down and grab, let's just do a hue saturation adjustment. And now maybe I'm going to take this hue and change it so it's purple, or I don't know what looks good. Purple, pink. I like that. We'll make it pink. Then I can grab the surfboard by just grabbing it here. And again, I'm going to add another adjustment layer, hue saturation. And we'll make this one, oh, not saturation. I'm going to grab the hue. Maybe we'll make this orange. And then we can grab the water down here. We'll add another hue saturation and I don't know, do something like that. And what's cool is Photoshop automatically then puts the adjustment layer within that folder. And then it only affects that area that is masked. So I think that's really cool. If you do a lot of landscape kind of thing, I mean, you can probably do this in Lightroom. I don't use it enough anymore to know what's all happening with Lightroom, but there's probably a feature like this. Maybe that's where it came from, but it is here in Photoshop. So if you find that helpful, that is very cool. Some other stuff. Let me close these out. And we'll go over to Bridge, and I wanted to show you, let's see, which of these? We'll do maybe this one, and then this one. Okay, that should be good for a minute. Okay, so you guys know probably, you know about blending modes, you know there's a bunch of different blending modes, but did you know that there are 8 special blending modes where the opacity slider does something different than the fill slider? Some of you might not even have ever paid attention to the fill slider before. So let me show you. First of all, I can show you what those blend modes are because I have this little document that I made up to kind of show this. So these particular 8 blending modes, and I'll get my face off of here. Whoop, nope. There you go. So these 8 blending modes are special in Photoshop because the fill slider has a different effect than the opacity slider. And for all the other blend modes, they function the same. But for color burn, linear burn, color dodge, linear dodge, vivid light, linear light, and hard mix and difference, they function differently. So let me show you what I mean. So here I've got this gorgeous image with this cool lighting. And let's say I want to add some highlights down here on her. So if I make a new layer, and let's just say I'm going to grab a round brush, and I'm just going to paint with white like this. Okay, so I just have white. Not very exciting. But if we change the blend mode to something like color dodge, it gets a little more interesting. But here's the difference. If I just dial down the opacity of the color dodge layer, it's just like a faded white paint. So I'm going to make a duplicate of that. We'll put it here, I guess. But this time on the duplicate, I'm going to bring the opacity back to 100%, and I'm going to drop the fill. So fill is down here underneath opacity, and it's different on these 8 magical blend modes. So here, if I take the fill down, look at the difference. So this is a fill of roughly 50%, and this layer has an opacity of 50%. And can you see the difference? Look at this. Here they are side by side. So you can do lots of cool things with this, like add sort of spotlights or, highlights or whatever. And I just think that's so, it's just fun. It's just fun to even do this and be like, wow, I just created a spotlight. So that is the difference between fill and opacity. They sort of mean the same thing, but they are different in those 8 magical special blend modes. Okay, so that's important to know. There is that option. A lot of people just, I think, don't know that fill is there because most of the time, excuse me, it just seems like opacity. And then I think people are like, what's the difference? I don't know. Do you guys take advantage? Excuse me, I'm having a throat moment. Do you guys take advantage of that? The fill? I might need water. Okay. Oh, yes. So Adrian is inspired to find a reason to use color dodge. Oh my gosh, my eyes are watering. That's crazy. Right? Isn't it fun? So you can use color dodge for lots of things. Adding highlights on things, rim lighting on portraits. You can create your own rim lighting, and it's so much fun. So I hope you guys enjoy that. The other thing, of course, we want to talk about is blend if. And, you've probably heard of this one, but maybe you haven't. But here I have an image here of our subject. And then I have this image on top with this bokeh happening. So if I want to add this bokeh, of course, we can go through and I can just like scroll through blend modes. Did you guys know? You guys know you can do that, right? You can, on a PC, it's like easy. You just click up here in the blend mode and you can use the arrow keys to scroll through them. On a Mac, it's annoying. You have to have the move tool and then it's shift plus or minus. But you can go through and play with the blend modes and get some kind of thing like this. Maybe I want to put this over here and have these sort of twinkle lights around her. But another way to work with this is to actually just blend one layer with another based on the tones in that layer. And that's called blend if. So we get there by double clicking, and right down here, we see blend if, and we have four options. You can blend based on the grays, like luminosity values, or red, green, or blue channels. So I'm going to leave this on gray for now. But basically, if I want my current layer, which is this layer with the bokeh stuff, if I want to just hide it, I want to blend it away, I want to make it invisible. Okay, that's kind of what that means. I want to make it invisible in the parts of it that are dark. Then I can come down here to this slider and I'm saying, take every part of this layer that is to the left of this slider and hide it. And you can see it's pretty rough. Like that doesn't look very good. But you really got to know the next step here is this slider isn't just one, but it's actually two. But to split it apart, you have to Alt or Option click, and now it splits in part. And now you can see it's much smoother. So I can go through here and hide different tones using these sliders. Here is another example that might be easier to see. So if we have this beautiful image, isn't this gorgeous? This is from Adobe stock. And I swear I re-download it just every time I bump into it because I love it so much. It was probably generated or something. I don't know. It looks really perfect. I just love it. It's so beautiful. So let's say I want to add a cloud to it. So I have this cloud. It's on a black background. Great. Obviously, we could just change the blend mode to screen and that will drop the black background out. But we might want to just blend this image in a little more. So another option is we could use layer masks and we could mask over it with a cloud brush or something like that and kind of blend it in. But we can also use blend if, and we can combine blend if with whatever blend mode we choose. So to do that, I'm just going to double click again, brings up this blend if thing. And now maybe I want the darker parts of the cloud to disappear. So again, I'm going to take the shadow section and I'm going to split the little slider by holding Alt or Option. And now I can pull this like this. And I'm saying, all right, I want this smooth feather of blending to happen between these tonal values. And look at that effect. So you can blend based on the current layer, or you can blend based on what is underneath. And you can blend the shadows or you can blend the highlights. And both of those little blenders can be split by holding Alt or Option And what that does is it makes for a smoother transition. And then, you know, you've got a whole other situation happening here. And it's just, oh, it's just so beautiful. I love Blend If. All right, let's see. We've got a couple more things really quick that I wanted to show you, and we'll go back. Can close all of these out. Okay. Let's look at this one, and where did it go? Did I not save it? What? Okay, well, look at this one, and then let me see. Maybe it's in my downloads. Where would it be? This, and you guys has anyone here, show of hands while I try to find this image that I thought I moved. Has anyone here ever, I guess we'll do this one. Have you ever been frozen out of Adobe stock for a day because you downloaded too much from the free collection? Anybody? Maybe it's just me. I've had that happen twice, where I was downloading so many stocks for my like collaging that they said, you've reached your limit for today. And to be fair, I think the limit's like 1,000 images. And I did somehow do that. And I felt so bad. And I'm like, oh my God, they're going to come after me. But I love that they have a free stock collection so that we can all experiment and play and teach and learn. And it's great. Okay, so let me show you what I was gonna try to show you here. So we're gonna have this image with stars, and then I'm gonna copy this and paste this on top. And we'll paste this also on top. I had this prepped somewhere. I don't know what happened to it. And I'm just gonna crop it because I want it cropped. Okay, and then we're gonna add a text layer. And I had this text all styled and everything. I don't even know what happened to it. So I called it punch out. Okay, and we'll center this, and we'll change the font to something thick and good. Let's scale this. All right, this will just have to do. Oh, I adjusted the leading and everything, and it was perfect. And then I don't know where I saved it. Someplace random. Okay, that is bothering me. Punch out. Okay, so how many of you guys know what a knockout is in the layers panel? I was a late bloomer to discover this, and it's really cool. I think of it more like a download queen. Adrian says I'm a download queen. That's one word for it. That's nice. I'll take it. So I'm going to show you what a knockout is. In my brain, I think of it sort of like a reverse mask, which is like, what? I don't even get that. But here's what I'm going to show you. All right. So let's say we have this text and we want to use it to punch a hole in this water layer to reveal the sand layer that is underneath. That should probably be up more. Okay, so let's say we want to punch a hole through the water layer to reveal the sand. Now you might just think, why not just select the text and then come down here and add a mask, and then when we hide the text, there we go. When we hide the text, now we can see the sand. Okay, that is one option. However, every time I need to edit that mask or I change my text, I have to recreate this mask, and it's annoying. And also I might want to punch through more than one layer. So it's called knockout. I think of it as punching through. So I'm going to cancel this. We don't need that mask. So what we're going to do is take this punch out text, and we're going to double click in the layers panel. And over here where it says knockout, somehow I can't zoom in suddenly. I don't know what happened to my zoom in powers. They disappeared. Here where it says knockout and it is set to none, I'm going to change this to say shallow. And actually, let's make this layer into a background layer quick, just to show you. Okay. So we're going to come in, go to knockout. We're going to change your options are none, shallow, or deep. I'm going to say shallow. And that's it. Then I'm going to click OK, and nothing happened. And this trips me up literally still every time because I always forget that the part 2 step of knocking this out is that you have to actually like get the text out of the way. And by that, I mean, we need to reduce the fill for this type layer. So I'm going to drag the fill down. And now we can see that it is punching through everything below it. It's punching through the water layer. It's punching through the sand layer, and it's hitting and then stopping at the background layer. And that's crucial because when you have a knockout and it's not in a folder, no matter what you set it to, it's going to punch through everything in your layers panel. And the only thing that can stop it is a background layer. So, for example, if I make this background layer a regular layer by unlocking it, now you can see that it will punch through the background or the bottom to transparency. All right. Now, you may wonder what's the difference then between a shallow knockout and a deep knockout. That has to do with folders. So maybe I want this punch out and this water layer to be in a group. So I'm going to select them both and group them. And now you can see that the punch out is only happening within the folder. So that's what a shallow knockout does, is it will only punch through whatever layers are in the folder. So the folder sort of stops the punch out. A shallow one. It's just a little punch. So it can be blocked by the folder. If we change this punch out by, again, just double clicking right here, and if we go in and say, let's have a deep punch out, now it doesn't even matter that it's in a folder. It's going to punch right through the folder, right through everything in the layers panel. And again, because I don't have an actual background layer, it's now going to punch all the way through to transparency. So if I wanted to stop it here, then I need to make this layer a background layer by choosing layer, layer new via background. Why can I never find it? There it is. Does that make sense? And so what's nice about this versus a layer mask is that it's all live. There's no actual masking. So I can go in and just change this text to be whatever I want, whatever. And I don't have to like rebuild masks and reconfigure everything. And I just find that super handy anytime you want to punch, knock out some sort of layer in your layers panel. So just to review, the knockout, it can be none, it can be shallow, or it can be deep. Shallow will be stopped by putting the layer you want to punch through in a folder with the knockout text or knockout object or whatever. And deep will punch through everything until it hits a background layer. So that is what that means. Okay. That is those three things. That. And then one more cool thing, and then we'll probably just call it a day because that would make sense. Let's open this with regular Photoshop. Yes. All right. So this last thing that I want to show you, Steven says, will there be a quiz? Maybe. Stay tuned. This last thing I want to show you is also really interesting. It's about a little option that, again, is one of those things you really have to poke around to find, about blending clipped layers as groups. So here we have 3 layers. I have this beautiful background image. I have some text, and then I have this really colorful image on top of it. And if we change the blend mode of this, and I don't remember what I liked here. I think it was this. If I change the blend mode of this layer, it is hitting the text, which is just normal, just white text, right? And then the text layer is blocking it from interacting with the image. So what am I talking about? So the layer, this colorful layer in this difference blend mode, we can see the mountains in the picture and we can see the stuff down here, but the text is like blocking it. If we hide the text, then we can see the stuff here between it. So let's go ahead and clip this so that it only shows up on the text. But again, now we're not seeing through to the mountains in the background. So this layer is just blending with the text. And if we turn off the text, we lose the whole thing. If we reduce the fill of the text, we lose the whole thing. So what we want is we want for this colorful layer to blend with the photograph of the mountains in the areas where it shows up, which is the text. How are we going to do that? If we change the blend mode of the text, well, that kind of will give it to us. But maybe we don't want the text at all. There's a thing we can do where we need to double click on the text layer. And this option here that says blend, I still don't have my zoom powers. Blend clipped layers as a group. If we uncheck that, it will blend, and then we got to bring this this fill of the type layer to 0. It will now, instead of blending the colorful layer to the type, and then all of that sitting on top of the photographic background, now it's blending the type and the clipped layer independently. So it's as if the type layer doesn't exist. In fact, the type layer has no impact on this other than its shape because the fill is now set to 0. So just let me review this. Let me put this fill back to 100%. So right now, even though this layer is in, and we'll turn this back on. Even though this layer is in difference blend mode, it is clipped to this type layer. And so it looks all cool and pretty, but it's not interacting with the mountains. So, and if we just remove the fill from the type layer, we lose the clipped group as well. That is because by default, when things are clipped together like this, they get blended. The blend modes get applied as a group by default. But if we change that by double clicking on the text layer, so whatever is supporting the clipped item, now we can hide this option, turn off the option to blend clipped layers as group. And again, nothing happens, kind of like with a knockout. So I think of these two features kind of similarly because they always require the second step. So that knockout, again, looks like it does nothing, just like here, nothing seems to happen. But because these two things now blend separately, that means we can dial down the fill on the text layer And the beautiful color overlay layer gets to blend on its own. And now we get this super cool effect. And I just want to eat it up. I think it's so gorgeous. So anyway, those ones are kind of tricky. I think the best way to really make get a sense of them is to just play with them. And images like this, if you take like a black and white landscape, put some text and a really colorful image on top, and then just play with it, you'll start to see how that works. I'm trying to see. I want to see if there's anything else. Maybe I'll save the others. Well, okay, I will show you one more thing because I learned this from our friend Bart Vandevila a couple years ago, and I was like, "What?" I had no idea. So I'm going to show you one more thing. I don't know. It really depends on like how much you use it or not. Really depends on the kind of work that you do. But and this one isn't working well with beta, so I got to open it in our regular beloved Photoshop. So let's take a look here. So this is really most useful, I think, if you're creating graphics for, work stuff, you're collaborating on like social stuff or advertisements, and you've got all these kind of pieces, and maybe you need to export certain parts. So did you know that Photoshop's layers panel can become a generative engine, and it can actually generate files for you? So the most simple version of this is to just select everything that you might want to output in your layers panel, and you can go to the panel menu and you can say quick export as ping. That's one thing. So we'll just do that quick. I'll put it on my desktop or I'll never find it. Okay, so now if I look on my desktop, look what it did. All of those pieces, each layer just got sent out and made into a ping. So when or how is that useful? I've loved that as a designer when I've been making like a font, and I made the font with Photoshop because it was like a candy heart font. And I also wanted to include all the different candy hearts as ping files as well. And I was not about to like manually create all of them. Well, each one had a layer in my layers panel. So I could just spit the whole thing out and boom, I've got pings. So that is an awesome use case for that. But there is more. Check this out. It's kind of a convoluted process. The first thing you have to do is go into Photoshop's preferences. So wherever those are, or settings, I guess it's called now, we're going to go into settings and plugins. And down here under plugins, you have to click this button to enable generator. Okay. So we'll click OK now. So all we've done is like enabled this feature. Now we have to turn the feature on by going to edit. Where is it? File, automate. They moved it kind of recently. File, automate, generator plugins, image assets. So check this out. Now, by simply naming something in the layers panel, you can export it as whatever you want at whatever size you want. I'll show you what I mean. I have to get this right. It's kind of codey. So the syntax or whatever it's called is very specific. So let's say I have this quote here, and I want to generate this quote as a ping. So I'm just going to append the file name with .png. I'm going to press enter. And like nothing happens. That's okay. Look what happens if we go to, where is it? Is it on my desktop? Oh. Here's the folder where this document lives. You can see I'm in Bridge right now. This is the document I'm working with. Photoshop just generated this folder called Generate Assets. And when I open it, here is the quote that it just kicked out. It's spit out from the layers panel as a ping. Let me do another one. Let's grab this portrait and I'm going to group them. I don't know if we have to, but just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to select this group and I'm going to call it also ping.png and go back to Bridge. There it is. Photoshop just made it just because I added .png to the file name. Check this out. If I go in here, I'm going to add an adjustment layer. Let's say I'm like, oh, we need this in black and white. Okay, so I'm going to desaturate it and clip it to this. I'm not even going to change anything else. When I go back to Bridge, look at that. There it is, updated to be black and white because I have a hue saturation adjustment layer that's affecting it. Are you kidding me? And let's see, look how big it is. If I preview it on my screen, this is its actual size. Let's go back. And now if I come in here and change the name, we'll hide the hue saturation. And now I'm going to add in the front of the name, I'm going to add 50%. I hope I'm getting this right. You really have to have specific text here. Now let's see. Okay, now if we go back to Bridge, it looks the same, but now when I preview it, it's smaller because it's now generated at 50% of its actual size. So you can put in different size, you can make pings, you can export things as JPEGs. I don't know what all the limits are. It's just mind-blowing. And Adobe has an entire help page dedicated to this feature and all the different kind of scripty, codey stuff that you can type into the layers panel to have it do all this, but it just happens automatically. So, and it will always be updated. So whatever version of this you are looking at in Photoshop will magically simultaneously coexist on your hard drive. I just don't even know. That is just mind-blowing. Let me see what you guys are saying in the chat. This is fun. Steven says, OMG. Yes, that is how I felt when I learned about that. He's also asking, does it always go to Bridge? No, that's just me. It goes, Bridge is just a file browser, right? So instead of viewing my files through Finder or Windows Explorer, I view them in Bridge. So I'm seeing it in Bridge, but it's whatever way you look at your files on your hard drive, you'll see it there. It just goes to your hard drive and it puts that folder in the same root folder where the document itself lives. So that folder just gets created right alongside the document that it came from. Oh yeah, that's bonkers. Gonna need that guide link. Steven says, I will add it to the, there we go. Gonna need the guide link. I will add it to the description below this video after we're all done here. So, I mean, give me a minute. It won't be an instantaneous thing, but I'll get it up, I don't know, within 20 minutes or something after we wrap. Yes. So the guide is just Adobe's like help guide. It just explains what that feature is. There's more you can do with it. Like if you put a blank layer just at the top of the layers panel and you type in this whole convoluted formula, you can tell it to like take every single thing in your layers panel, export it at this size, put it in this folder. I don't know, so much stuff. So I will drop that link and you guys can read their file. It's a little, my brain was crashing when I was looking at it. So I'm keeping it simple, but you can get into it as much as you want in the guide. So awesome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here today at Creative Pro for yet another fun live stream. And I just want to remind you, like Adrienne said, we have the Design and Accessibility coming up in September. It's an online event. It's 4 days and you learn so much mind-blowing stuff that most designers have no awareness of, and it is so important. And if you want to check it out, you can save $100 with the code livestream and find out more at creativepro.com/events. So that is it for us today. Thank you for being here. And yeah, I look forward to reading all the comments and seeing what your favorite tips were, or if there's any other tips that I missed that you think should have been in there, let me know. And until next time, happy photoshopping, and we'll hope to see you at another Creative Pro event sometime soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.